All right, so this really only took a few seconds. If we go into deployment details here, we can see that the virtual machine itself was deployed in 32 seconds. The public IP address took 6 seconds. The virtual network part took 20 seconds. So we really struck it rich here. It took only a minute or so to deploy this virtual machine. So I can click this blue button to take me directly to the resource. And we can see that it is in the running state, the name of our virtual machine. It has a public and a private IP address. Scrolling down, we can see the CPU utilization. It's running right now it's running around 30%. So the machine must still be in its startup state. You can see the disk and the disk operations, etc. So this machine is very much alive, and we can sort of see it here. Now, you might want to right away go and connect to the virtual machine, and Microsoft does provide it an easy way. There is this connect button, and we can choose whether we want to connect to it using RDP. If this was a Linux box, it would be SSH, or if we had an Azure Bastion setup, we could use that. So let's choose RDP. And basically, we've got our public IP address, the port number, and we could download the Windows Remote Desktop file to our computer. I clicked it and it did it. If I open the RDP file, it says unknown publisher. That's okay. And now we have to log in to the Windows server. Now this is trying my own computer credentials. You have to click more choices and use a different account. Now we created an administrator account when we set up this box, and whatever your account ended up being, this is what you're going to use. So I put in my administrator credentials and I say OK. Now this is the first time I'm connecting to this machine, and so I have to accept the security certificate, and I can even store the certificate, and so don't ask me again for this computer, and I said yes. And now it's the familiar Windows Remote Desktop interface. It's creating an account for me. So there's the first time login process, creating a Windows profile, creating my desktop. So it's going to take a little bit longer than a normal login to create this profile for me. Now we have a Windows server at our disposal. I can go into it's going to tell me this is the first time it's running. And so do I want this to be discoverable? I'm going to say no, that's fine. And we can see it's a Windows server. I can click the Windows icon and we can see there's nothing installed here. The first time it runs, it does start up a Windows Server role selection. Now we can always, this is where we would set up IIS or anything else. We can always minimize that. So we've successfully created and connected to this computer. We can easily disconnect to it if we click the power and say disconnect. Now, as I said before, this machine is now incurring costs. And so I think it was something like 15 cents an hour. Maybe it's not that much. But when you're not using the machine, if it's not a production server and you're not using it, you probably do want to stop the machine. That will deallocate the IP address, and the machine will still exist as a file in a storage account, but it won't be running, it won't be connectable. So I do recommend when you're done playing around with this to stop it. We're not going to do that right now because we have more to talk about, but I wanted to let you know that this is going to incur charges until you stop it.